June 2nd, 1998, 25 years ago today, at about this exact time, a terrifying sight as a tornado touched down on Mount Washington. Today, little evidence remains of the damage.
The memories of that day, though, still loom large.
And the next thing I know, this big wall just started coming up Virginia Avenue. And everything was going up in the air. The next thing I know, on Shallow Street, a metal roof comes flying up Shallow.
Lifelong Mount Washington resident Tom Horseman remembers June 2nd, 1998, like it was yesterday. He survived the tornado that hit there that night, even has the T-shirt to prove it. In fact, everyone survived it, which still astonishes two men who are on the front lines of forecasting it.
This is ground zero, Allegheny County right now under a tornado warning.
It is right over Three Rivers Stadium. That is an isolated lowering, usually from the southwestern edge of a nasty thunderstorm.
25 years ago, Larry Richert was doing the weather here at KDKA-TV, while Dennis Bowman was at WPXI.
And the fact that nobody was seriously hurt was kind of a miracle.
I think one of the bits of good fortune for that night is that it happened during the news. It happened during the 5:30 to 6:30 time block. A lot of people were watching television at that time, and so the warning was out.
Both vividly recall the moments right before the tornado hit.
I had a live shot of the wall cloud over Three Rivers Stadium, and if I had just stayed with that shot, we would have watched the wall cloud produce the tornado that went on over to hit Mount Washington.
And I remember looking at the radar and seeing the signature red hook and said, that's a tornado, and looked up on the monitor and saw it coming down the river.
That monitor Larry's talking about showed our tower cam, which now retired KDKA photographer Linda Lubazinski had turned to capture this now famous shot.
I got a call from one of our photographers, Paul Spradley, and he said, Linda, turn the tower cam around to Mount Washington. Rich Hankey, who was working with me at the time, we both saw the shot of the tornado, and we went, oh my.
And while everyone remembers the tornado that hit Mount Washington, it was just one of 9 that hit the region that night.
We had tornado warnings in like 8 different counties at the same time. All of the thunderstorms that were being manufactured that night were supercells.
There were 2 swarms that night. In fact, once the tornado came to Mount Washington and a few other areas, there was a pause and the sun came out. And so everybody thought it's over for the night. But then we had to tell people we've got another set of tornadoes bearing down on the region.
When it was all over, the path of destruction stretched from Beaver to Somerset counties. In Pittsburgh alone, nearly 1,000 homes were damaged, a dozen destroyed, totaling $14 million in damage. 25 years later, as Larry, Dennis, and Linda walk along Mount Washington's Virginia Avenue, it's clear the physical scars of that night are long gone, but it's a night that they and everyone else who lived through it will never forget.
We all knew how dangerous the situation could be, but again, the entire news staff also knew that we had an obligation to the community to stay on the air and keep everybody informed, and so that's what we all did.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 25 years. I happen to be sitting in this very chair 25 years ago today. I remember there are 2 things stand out. I remember this sense of disbelief. Like, we just didn't think it could happen.
No.
A tornado doesn't happen in the city of Pittsburgh.
Right.
It happened. And then I remember being out there, we just saw a clip of it there with Paul Martino reporting live from the heart of the damage. And the light on top of our camera was the only light for blocks around. Everybody's power was out. Right. And it was such an eerie thing. You know, that's the kind of thing you might experience from time to time, whether if you're covering a storm. But for that to be happening right in Pittsburgh, when you can see the skyline all lit up, but this whole neighborhood in Mount Washington was pitch black except for our little light. It's just, you just can't forget that kind of scene and that kind of just enduring disbelief. I think back on it now and I think, I'm still surprised that happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the middle of the city and on a mountain, you usually think of it hitting, you know, the Great Plains or that kind of thing. I mean, but it's possible, obviously.
Anywhere there are ingredients for a tornado will happen, whether it's on a mountain, which we've seen on Mount Washington, or a hill. I've seen them form over Lake Erie and come on shore. Wow. So even near bodies of water. So when the ingredients are right, we say, hey, there's a possibility of this. That's one of those things that you need to pay attention to.
All right, well.